Applause. This audiobook reveals the hidden principles of wealth. Here you will discover all the hidden principles that have allowed the great millionaires of history to build their wealth while most are still trapped in an endless cycle of scarcity and frustration. As you listen, you will discover a knowledge that transcends the numbers, a knowledge that will reprogram your way of attracting money forever. In this audiobook, decipher the forbidden secrets of money, codes that govern financial success, the mentality that separates the rich from the poor, and the strategies that have allowed certain people to accumulate fortunes while others are trapped in scarcity. For centuries, money has been a mystery wrapped in superstition, myths and falsehoods that have been taught that wealth is a matter of luck, that some are born with star power, and that others are trapped in scarcity. For centuries, money has been a mystery wrapped in superstition, myths and falsehoods have been taught that wealth is a matter of luck, that some are born with star and others have fallen, that abundance is for the few and that the rest must be content to survive. But there is something that wealth has never told you is not a matter of luck but of understanding. If you observe carefully, you will see that there is a pattern. The rich continue to get richer while the poor remain trapped in the same cycle of scarcity. Is not a coincidence. Is not the work of destiny. Is the result of a knowledge that few have achieved. Understand and apply a knowledge that has been protected in disguise and in some cases deliberately hidden so that only a few have access to it. Is not another book about money. It is not a list of rules or a manual of personal finance. It is a journey to the deepest wealth of those who have transformed the lives of those who have understood and applied. Here is not about working harder or saving every penny with fear of spending. It is about understanding how money works in its true essence, of seeing what the majority does not see and thinking in a way that most never see. It is the mentality behind the money. There was a time when you thought wealth was a privilege reserved for a few, that the millionaires were born with an unattainable advantage, but what you are about to discover will challenge everything you once believed. The knowledge you are about to receive has been applied by the most brilliant and the most powerful minds, by the most brilliant minds and the most successful entrepreneurs in history. This is not a slumber, is not magic, is a proven reality. As soon as you see it, you can ignore. The world is full of wealth waiting to be claimed, but only those who understand the rules of the game can access it. The question is not whether you can get rich, the question is whether you are willing to see it. There is a big difference between those who build wealth and those who pursue it incessantly without ever achieving it. The former understand the invisible laws that govern money while the latter are trapped in illusions that keep them in a fight. The former understand the invisible laws that govern money, while the latter are trapped in illusions that keep them in a struggle. They have made us believe that the path to wealth is complicated, reserved only for financial experts, to entrepreneurs with large capitals, or for those who have powerful contacts. But if this were so, there would be no stories of people without financial education, without family support and without a penny in their pocket. They managed to need fortunes, and there would be no stories of heirs, billionaires who lose everything in a few years. Then what is the difference? The answer lies in a simple truth, that few are willing to accept that money follows those whom they understand its nature, and flee from them, and flee from those who chase him with desperation. Is easy to see the difference between who has internalized this truth and who does not. The first makes decisions from security and long-term vision, does not act with fear or let drag by the urgency of the moment. The second instead sees money as a very scarce something that must accumulate or that could disappear in any moment. The true rich never they run behind money. They understand that wealth is a consequence of your way of thinking and acting. Do not work for dinner or but make money work for them. They do not depend on a salary but build systems that they do not depend on a salary, but build systems that generate income regardless of the time or effort they invest. But this knowledge has been misrepresented. Most have been programmed to think that the only way to prosper is to sacrifice the present for an uncertain future. Meaningless saving or accepting that money is a necessary evil could not be further from the truth. Think about it. If everything were to take away from you today the money you have, how would you react? You would panic, despair, or you would know exactly what to do to recover it. The true rich know they fear losing everything because they do not depend on money, but on the knowledge that led them to create this book. For all is for those who are willing to see the truth and act in consequence. Once you discover these principles, you can no longer look at money from the same way, so get asked before continuing. Go ahead. Are you ready to change your financial destination once per all? If the answer is yes, then prepare, because what you are about to hear will change your life to always. Chapter: A New Game of Money. If there is something with certainty we can all agree is that wealth is no longer generated with the same rules of the past. During centuries society has followed a recipe standard to achieve Stability financial study: get a good job, work hard to save, and then of 4 decades of effort enjoy the retirement. This model worked in a time where the world moved with slowness, where the economy was predictable and opportunities were limited to those who had access to higher education and connections. Strategic, but that world no longer exists today. Wealth is no longer generated with the same rules of the past. Money has changed. Speed moves with the information, with technology, with the ability to interpret eyeball patterns. For those trapped in the thought traditional new millionaires know the steps follow of the generations above. Do not depend on a salary, fixed or stable job. Do not expect 40 years to accumulate enough money and live peacefully. Have understood that wealth is no longer in exchanging time for money, but in building systems that generate income without relying on your constant presence. This is the big difference between those who prosper and those who are left behind, while some are still clinging to an outdated model. Others have understood that true security lies not in stability but in the ability to adapt. Inflation eats away at the value of money. Economic crises can wipe out savings in a matter of months. Jobs disappear with automation. The new game of money does not require a different mentality. It is not about working more hours or reducing expenses to the extreme. It is about increasing income in a way that is intelligent to generate value on a large scale, understanding that money flows to those who know how to play the rules correctly. If we observe those who have built great fortunes in recent years, we find a clear pattern. They are not those with the most titles, university students, or those who have worked harder in an office for decades. They are those who knew how to read the change and take advantage of the new opportunities. Are content creators who have monetized your entrepreneurial audience, digital who have built businesses without investor limits, who have multiplied their capital in decentralized markets, experts in artificial intelligence who have detected opportunities before the rest. The secret is no longer how time you work, but how influence you have on the money you generate. The old financial model insisted that saving was the key to economic tranquility. We were told that accumulating enough money in a bank account could ensure the future. But the savings only sold a save ticket is not enough. Is a ticket that loses value with time. The rich do not accumulate money for fear of losing it. Put it in motion. Have understood that wealth grows when money works for itself. Same when invested in assets, when multiplying through strategic decisions. This is the biggest mistake of those still trapped in traditional financial thinking. Believe that the key to stability is in money, when the key actually it is in multiplying it. We live in an era where any person with internet access you can build wealth. From your cell phone, a video channel on YouTube can generate more income than a career university. A product sold in a digital store can reach any part of the world without the need for a physical local. A published book can generate income without depending on an editorial. The opportunities are infinite, but require a change in mentality. Who does not understand this? You seek employment, build sources of income. Do not expect a salary increase. You learn to invest. Do not depend on the economy of your country. Diversify your platform income. Global. On the other hand, people with traditional mentality still believe that security is to work harder. They believe that sacrifice is the only way. They believe that the right way is to follow the same rules that have governed the economy for decades. But here is the big truth: the rules have changed, and those who do not understand will be left behind. The right information can transform the financial life of anyone in less time than imagine. But money follows who you know. That managing it is not about how much you want, but how much you can keep and multiply. It is not about avoiding risks, but to know which are worthy. It is not about following the traditional way, but to understand that today's money is not the same as yours. Traditional, but to understand that today money moves with a speed that does not wait for anyone, for that it has always been the key to wealth. Before this knowledge was limited. A few today is available to anyone willing to learn, but there is still a big difference between those who achieve financial freedom and those who do not. Action. Money is moving constantly. Does not expect those who doubt, who paralyze for fear of those who they look for excuses to postpone their decisions. Money flows to those who understand how they work and act in consequence. But there is a crucial detail: understanding the new money game is not enough to know without applying it. Is the same that not knowing anything is. The action is what separates those who transform their reality from those who are still trapped in the illusion that one day everything will change by itself. And here is the bigger problem: most people say they want wealth, but their actions reflect otherwise. They say they want financial freedom, but they continue to depend on a single income. They say they want to learn to invest, but they spend their time on distractions. They say they want to earn more money, but avoid making decisions that take them out of their comfort zone. They are trapped in mediocrity. Financial people with a wealth mentality do Not wait for conditions to be perfect. Do not seek absolute guarantees. Are not paralyzed by the fear of failure. Know that every mistake is a lesson. Know that every step in the right direction brings them closer to economic independence. Know that luck is nothing more than the result of being in the right place with the right preparation. Many spend their entire lives waiting for a stroke of luck without realizing that luck is simply the result of acting. That luck is simply the result of action. Is not about being at the right time but of being ready when that time comes, and that moment is now. The world is full of opportunities that never existed before. You can learn to generate passive income, invest in digital projects, build an audience that will pay for your knowledge, or create a business with global reach. The options are endless, but they all require a change of mentality. Despite living in the era of greater access to information in the history of humanity, many people continue to see money with the same eyes with which their grandparents still believe that the key to financial success is to get a good job and wait patiently for time to pass. They still believe that savings are enough to guarantee stability. They still believe that traditional education is the only way to generate wealth. But the reality is that money is no longer reserved for those who were born with privileges or for those who have contacts in the high spheres. The information has democratized opportunities, but there is still a barrier that few cross: the real commitment to learning and execution. If you continue to operate with the same mentality you grew up with, you will get the same results you have always had, but you will get them in a different way. If you continue to operate with the same mentality you grew up with, you will get the same results you have always had, but you will start to see money with a new perspective. Your financial reality will change inevitably. The first step is to understand the new rules of the game. For a long time, the educational system has trained people to be employees, not owners of their financial destination. We were taught to follow orders, to work for results, to avoid risks, instead of learning to manage them. But financial success does not. It is built with an employee mentality. It is built with a mentality of strata creator investor. Try to change the approach of exchanging time for money. Exchange value for money is treated to learn to generate income without depending exclusively on our physical effort or intellectual is a multiplication of our influence for money to flow towards us in a way constant. The problem is that the majority of people are still clinging to the idea that financial security is in a fixed salary. They see employment as a protection net without realizing that it is actually a prison disguised. It is not that having a job is something bad. The problem is that depending exclusively one leaves you in a position vulnerable. When you trust a single source of income, your stability, it depends on factors that you cannot control: the economy, decisions of your boss, the viability of the company in which you work. At any time, anything can change. True players of the new money game do not put their future in the hands of others. Do not expect someone to upload the salary. Do not depend on a contract to feel insurance. Do not give you control of your financial stability to a company or a government. They create their own opportunities instead of exchanging your time for a salary. Build systems that generate income in a way automatic. Create product, generate content, invest in assets. Who work for them are the ones who design their financial destination instead of waiting for someone else to do it for them. This is the new paradigm. Is no longer about how much money per hour you can generate and how many people you can benefit from this money. Follow those who understand this rule. When we look at the models they operate today, we find patterns clear. Content creators have learned to monetize their audience with strategies. Digital entrepreneurs have built businesses without the need for large investments. Initials investors have learned to multiply their capital with the difference between those who thrive and those who struggle economically is not luck, it is applied knowledge. It is the ability to understand where to move the money and position yourself in the right place ahead of the others who have figured it out. You are waiting for someone else to figure it out. Your financial future is taking action. Every time you make a financial decision, you are choosing between two roads: the traditional road where you work hard, save, and depend. If you decide to continue with the mentality of the past, you will see how the world moves on without you. But if you decide to learn to adapt and act, you will discover that wealth is not a privilege but a consequence of understanding how money moves in the modern world. This is the time to make a decision. You can continue to exchange your time for money, waiting for the financial system to treat you with justice, or you can start designing your own path to economic independence. Independence economic. The rules of the game have changed, but the question is changing you. Because the new money game has already started, it is now your turn to make the jugada correct. Chapter 2: The money does not. It is the illusion that has deceived us by centuries. In the previous chapter we understood that the rules of money have changed and follow the old financial strategies only keep trapped in a system obsolete. But before learning to play this new game with intelligence is something that we must question from your root: the very nature of money, what it really is, why it governs our lives, and most importantly, What would happen if we discovered that money is no more than a carefully constructed illusion? They have taught us that money is the key to life, that without it we are convinced that defines our security and even our value as human beings. But what would happen if I told you that money, as we conceive it, does not exist? It is only an idea, a fiction collective in which we have all agreed to participate, is not a natural law or an essential force of existence. If tomorrow the financial system collapsed and all the money in the world would disappear, the earth would continue to be fertile, the sun would continue to shine, and people would continue to live their lives, would continue to shine, and people would continue to have creativity, talent, and the ability to innovate. Yet we have built our reality around this concept. We do not question why a paper ticket has more value than a leaf from a tree, or why a number on the screen can make us feel powerful or afraid. We have conditioned ourselves to believe that money is what separates us from misery, when in reality the key to abundance has never been in tickets or coins, but in the way we interact with the energy of value. The real question is not why some people have money and others do not, but why some seem to attract it naturally while others chase it. The answer lies in perception. Money is nothing more than projection of our mind, a manifestation. External dick does not follow those who want it but those who have learned to move it, to those who have understood that it is not an end in itself but a vehicle to channel the flow of abundance. In this chapter we will disassemble the illusion of money and we will explore the true nature of wealth. We will see how society has been trained to live in scarcity as our limiting beliefs keep us trapped in fear, and how to change our mentality to get out of this game and start observing money so that it really is a tool that follows value, not effort. Since we are born, teach us that money is the basis of survival, that without it there is no security, that the only way to peace we grow. Hearing phrases such as money does not grow in trees, you have to work hard to earn, life is dirty, or rich are greedy, and without realizing these ideas are installed in our minds as absolute truths, conditioning our relationship with wealth much before we can question them. Tell us that the way toward a stable life is to follow rules established pre. What they never explain is that this system is designed to keep us trapped in an endless cycle of effort. Convinced that money is scarce and can only be obtained through sacrifice, most people spend their lives exchanging their time for money, not realizing that time is the only resource that is truly irreplaceable. Cling to a salary because they believe it is the only way to secure their livelihood without ever questioning why some seem to generate wealth effortlessly while others, despite working tirelessly, barely manage to survive. Money does not follow effort. Value does not flow to those who despair or to those who work harder, but to those who have understood how to make an impact on the world, who have accumulated great fortunes did not do so because they spent more hours in, and those who have accumulated great fortunes have done so not because they have spent more hours in an office, but because they have learned to channel the energy of money to their pleas. Have understood that money does not seek to attract. Most people is not poor because you do not have access to chance, but because it has been planned to believe that wealth is only for some few. Believe that scarcity is the reality and abundance is the exception, when in reality it is the opposite. Abundance is the natural state of the universe. Energy expands. Nature is constantly growing. Without effort itself is a flow infinity of resources, but the human mind, when conditioned by scarcity, creates artificial barriers that limit what is available. If you have ever felt that money is hard to come by, it is because he has been trained to think that way. If you think wealth is unfair, that money only corrupts your mind, comes with suffering, you will find ways to make that true in your life. Money is a manifestation of the mind that follows you. Money is a manifestation of the mind that follows those who have understood that it is nothing more than a means of exchange, a tool, and not a destiny in itself. The mind of the human being is a magnet. We attract what we believe, even if our beliefs harm us. If we have repeated since childhood that money is hard to get, that it comes only with effort, that it is dangerous, or that it turns people into selfish beings, we grow up with a distorted relationship to wealth. Without realizing our mind, we will find ways to confirm that it is true. We cling to the idea that financial stability is only possible through sacrifice and accumulation, but if we observe those who have built real wealth, we will find that their mentality is completely different. They do not seek security through money, they seek freedom from money. They do not think about how much they can keep, but how they can make money keep moving to create more value. Fear of money is what keeps us away. Of money is what to keep farther, or even those who, when they have access to it, they lose it quickly because your subconscious does not allow them to keep it. Artists and businessmen who after achieving success end up in ruin because they never changed their beliefs about abundance in fun. They are still trapped in the mentality of scarcity, in the idea that money it is unstable. temporary and difficult to keep. Money is not the problem. Problem is how we see it. If we see it as something that escapes, we will escape. If we see it as something unattainable, we will keep it far away. But we understand that it is just an energy that responds to our choices and perceptions. We begin to attract it in a completely new way. People with an abundance mentality do not see money as an object to cling to but as a constant flow. They are not afraid to invest because they know that money is like water. If you stagnate, it rots. If money does not exist as something tangible and absolute, but as a mental and social construction, then what really has value? The answer is clear. Value is what we are able to create and the way we use our talents, knowledge, and creativity to impact the world. People who have achieved financial freedom did not follow the traditional path. They did not cling to the security of a job or the false stability of a salary. Instead, they learned to observe how money flows, how it moves in the world, how it is created when someone contributes something that others need. Money does not have to be a constant flow. It can be a constant flow. It can be a constant flow. It can be a constant movement. It can be a constant. When we learn to generate money, it ceases to be a problem. When money does not exist in itself, when it is nothing more than a social agreement and a projection of our minds. So the real question is not how to get more money, but how to change our relationship with it. Most people spend their lives chasing money as if it were a goal in itself, believing that when they have it they will be happy, that they can relax and enjoy life. But those who have accumulated wealth know that money was never the goal. The difference is what you can build with it. Observes those who have achieved financial independence do not work more hours than others do not. They are constantly worried about the money instead of learn to see the money as a tool, not like an end. Have developed the ability to identify opportunities to generate value in the world, creating systems that work for them. Here is the big difference between those who live in scarcity and those who the first see the money thrown as something to achieve and protect, the second see it as something that you have to move and expand. Those who live in scarcity, they are afraid to spend. They are afraid to invest. They are afraid to lose. They save out of fear. They accumulate without understanding that money without movement loses value. They operate out of insecurity and need, so they can never be truly economic free. Instead, those who have not understood the nature of money, they see it as something that must be kept, but as something that must flow. They don't seek security through accumulation, but through the creation of new opportunities. They don't depend on a single income, but they have built multiple sources of wealth that allow you to have freedom over your time. This is where the most important principle of all: money follows money. I don't know. Working more hours but creating more value does not flow to whom they desperately wish, but to those who have learned to solve problems, to facilitate processes, to offer something that the world needs. This is the reason why some people can generate wealth even starting from scratch, while that others, although they win large sums, they end up losing everything. It is not about how much money enters, but what you do with it and how you think about it. If you continue to operate with the mentality of scarcity, with which it will never be enough, you will always see it as something fragile, something that can disappear in I want. But if you start to see it as an energy in constant motion, as a tool to expand possibilities, your economic reality will begin to transform. Inevitably, money is a tool that amplifies what we already are. When someone with a scarcity mentality receives a large sum, will find ways to lose it quickly because his programming subconscious does not allow you to maintain the they are bound. On the other hand, a person with a mentality of wealth loses everything in a short time. You will find a way to rebuild it because he understands the invisible laws that govern money. Our mind has been trained to see money from fear. We believe that we must protect it, so scarce that only a few can achieve it. But money has no power, is nothing more than a what gives it power is the way it perceives us and it uses us. If today they would deposit in your account an amount that you have never imagined, how would you react? In peace, or you would invade the fear of losing it? You would think about how to expand it, or you would hide for fear that this is where the key enters. More important is not the money that changes your life, but your relationship with it. Is why there are people who, despite receiving large sums, end up with less than before. This is why there are people who, despite receiving large sums of money, end up with less than before, because their mind continues to operate from lack. They do not see money as a flow that expands, but as something that can end at any moment. The true transformation occurs when we stop seeing money as an enemy or as a god, and we understand that what is really a tool. They don't look for money in themselves, they seek to create value. They don't focus on how much they have, but on how many opportunities they can create with what they have. but how many opportunities they can create with what they have. Do not see money as something they must pursue, but as something that flows to them when they learn to align their mentality with abundance. This is where many people make a mistake when applying the law of attraction. They believe that visualizing money in their hands will magically make it appear, but the true attraction of wealth occurs when you become someone who makes a difference in the world, when you learn to contribute to solving problems, to improving the lives of others. Money comes as a natural consequence. Value is not about how much money you can accumulate, but how much you can move and sacrifice. You will continue to be trapped in the struggle, but you begin to see it as an energy that responds to the creation of value. You will find that money flows to you with ease, without pressure or stress. I will continue with the last part and close this chapter with the practical application of this new mindset. If money is nothing more than a tool that follows value and not effort, then the most important question we have to ask ourselves is not how do I get more money, but how do I become a person who creates value. That is the real key. I am not trying to look for money, but to understand how it moves, why it flows to some people and not to others. When we observe those who have built wealth, we will notice that their approach is never to have more, but to create more. The difference between those who live in scarcity and those who prosper lies in their relationship with money. The first see it as something fragile, something to protect, something they can lose at any moment. The second see it as a flow, as an energy that moves and grows to the extent that we learn to use it with intelligence. This is where it enters. Enter the great lesson of this chapter. Do not chase the money. Learns to play with it, stops seeing it as a limited resource and begins to see it as a tool that can multiply. Instead of focusing on how long, focus on how many opportunities you can create with what you already have. Instead of saving with fear, learn to invest with strategy. Instead of thinking about how much you are missing, observing how much you can generate to change your life. How much you can generate to change your mentality. This is the paradigm shift that transforms the financial life of any person. Stop operating from fear and start operating from expansion. If you still believe that the solution to your financial problems is more money, but you don't change the way you think and handle what you have, nothing you will really change. You can get a fortune, but you will continue to operate from scarcity. You can get the best salary in the world, but you continue to depend on a single income. You continue to be tied to uncertainty. That is why the path to abundance begins with the mind. When you change the way you think about it, everything around you begins to transform. Opportunities appear, doors open, abundance flows in unexpected ways, but it all starts with a decision. Stop seeing money as a problem and start seeing it as a game that you can learn to play. Here ends this chapter, but the real transformation just begins. In what follows, we will see how to apply these principles in real life, how to build systems that generate wealth effortlessly, and how to make the definitive leap from the mentality of scarcity to the mentality of financial freedom. Money has never been the problem. Money has always been the problem, as we have seen. Now that you know, you have the power to change it. Chapter 3, The Wealth Mentality. Wealth does not begin with money, but with the way you perceive it, how you think about it, how you use it, how you seek it, and how willing you are to receive it. No, it is a matter of luck. Two people can be in the same financial situation and see it differently. One sees the lack, the crisis, and the lack of opportunities. The other sees the possibilities of learning and new paths. Both live in the same world, but one is trapped by his thoughts and the other is liberated by his way of interpreting reality. Since childhood, most people have been conditioned to view money with fear, guilt or frustration. We are taught that money does not bring happiness, that there is always something missing, something that wants more, or that being rich is difficult. What no one tells us is that these ideas are not universal truths, but beliefs that have been passed down from generation to generation and that can be changed. Money is just a reflection of your mental programming. If you think money is difficult to get, what it will be. If you think it is available to those who prepare to receive it, you will find ways where others see obstacles. That is why many people, no matter how much they earn, always end up in the same economic situation. Some receive a raise, an inheritance, or even win the lottery, but soon they are back in bankruptcy. Is not bad luck is your pilot. Your mind runs automatically. Run mentality automatically. The mind acts as a financial thermostat. Each person has a subconscious idea of how much money can handle without feeling uncomfortable. If exceeds that level, will look for the way to get rid of it. If the money he receives is less than the level at which it is programmed, will find forms of increase. A man who had grown up in poverty, he managed to build a business successful in a few years. It happened not to have nothing to generate more money than imagined. However, every time it seemed to approach financial stability, something happened. happened a problem unexpected, a debt that did not remember, an investment that went wrong, always return to the same point looking for answers. Answers went to a wise man and asked why every time I point to consolidate my wealth occurs something that makes me lose what I have achieved. The wise man asked to close his eyes and imagine that his wealth is multiplied overnight, woke up and had 10 times more money. I had never managed. The man tried to do it, but soon his mind was filled with anxiety. With fear, he imagined himself losing everything, making bad decisions, feeling the pressure to manage so much money. The wise one observed it and said, "There you have your answer. Your mind is set on a certain amount of money, and every time you approach to overcome it without giving you account, you are looking for the way to return to the level that you are familiar with." The man then understood that his problem had never been the money, but the image I had of him. Your mind was used to operating within a limit, and every time it tried to go beyond that limit, its subconscious mind sought a way to return it to comfort. This pattern is repeated in the lives of millions of people who believe they want more money, but in their subconscious, money represents sacrifice or even danger, stress, and what the mind associates with danger, the body avoids. The difference between those who build wealth and those who remain in scarcity is not how much they work, but how they think about money. People with a scarcity mentality believe that money is difficult, that you have to suffer to get it, and that only a few are privileged to possess it. People with a wealth mentality see money as a tool, not as an end in itself, and decisions intelligently. A person who wins 000 to year but you are afraid of losing it without control or not invest with less than someone who earns much less but knows how to manage what you have and put it to work is not just about winning more but to learn to handle money without fear, without anxiety and without patterns. Self-destructive. The problem is not a lack of opportunities. Never in history has there been so many ways to generate income. What slows down most people is not the lack of options, but the mentality with which they approach money. If someone has been accustomed to see money with suspicion, even if you have a great opportunity in your hands you will find reason to reject it. If someone believes that money is unstable, every time I get it will look for ways to lose it. If someone is accustomed to live with just when the usual will feel uncomfortable and will find ways to spend more or less than you have. They will find ways to spend more or get into financial problems. That return to their normal state is not magic, it is no coincidence, is the way in which the mind protects what it finds familiar. But just as a mentality can keep someone in scarcity, also it can free them from it. The mind is like a muscle, can be reprogrammed as well as someone can train your body to be stronger, can also train your mentality to receive more, to manage money strategically and to break the limits that had all life. The first step to change your relationship with money is to observe what you think and what you say about it. Every time you say "I don't have enough," "is difficult to make money," or "rich are old," you are reinforcing a programming that maintains scarcity in your life. Instead, when you begin to say "there are opportunities everywhere, I can learn to generate income in an intelligent way and wealth is a skill I can develop," your mind begins to adapt to this new reality. The people who have achieved financial success were not born with a different mentality, they built. If you continue to see money as something distant, difficult or unattainable, will always validate that belief in your life, but when you begin to see it as something natural, as a resource that you can learn to handle, money will begin to flow to you in ways that you never imagined before. The world is full of opportunity, but only for those who know it. Recognizing that the question is not whether money is available, it has always been there. The question is whether you are ready to receive. The difference between people who build wealth and those who live in scarcity is not in the amount of money they handle, but in the way they think and make decisions. The problem is not how much you want, but how you manage what you have and what you do with it. If you have a mentality of scarcity, any additional income you receive will be spent on unnecessary things, in whims or emergencies that in one way or another you always seem as if money had a life of its own and decided to leave your hands every time it arrives. But it is true that it is not money that I know it escapes you, who rejects it unconsciously because never you learn to handle it. Think of someone who has grown up watching your family struggle with financial problems. Maybe your parents told him things like "money is hard to get, is better to settle for," "I know you can't have money and be a good person at the same time." These phrases seemed harmless when he was a child, but now as an adult they have become the programming with which to handle your finances. Maybe now has a good job, earns more money than ever he had his family, but still lives with the same financial anxiety of "when I barely survived with just spent money on things that don't need." He doesn't invest in his future, he is afraid to take risks. It is not bad luck, is your mind keeping it at the safety level financial with which money grew. It is nothing more than a reflection of the mentality with which managers to change the relationship with money does not start earning more but understanding how the mind works and reprogram it to operate at a new level. A person with a mentality of wealth no view money as something that must be spent once he gets it, either as a resource that must be hidden for fear of people with a wealth mentality do not depend on a single income. They are not afraid to invest. No, they do not think about how much money they can spend, but how much they can multiply. They see opportunities where others see risks. They seek to constantly learn how to generate income, how to make money work for them, and how to avoid falling into emotional traps that lead to impulsive spending. On the other hand, people with a scarcity mentality see money as a resource that must be hidden away for fear of losing it. People with a scarcity mentality see money as something that is hard to get and easy to lose, believe that saving is the only form of security, but never invest, think that opportunities are only for the rich or for those who are lucky, depend on their salary, and are afraid to take risks, see mistakes as failures, and fail to see them as learning. That the real problem of poverty is not a lack of money, but a lack of knowledge about how to handle it. If someone spends his whole life exchanging your time for money and never learn to multiply it, you can get out of the career of the rat. The money does not reach those who pursue it with desperation, arrives at those who understand it, respect it, and use it with strategy. A person who thinks with wealth mentality, you are never worried about money in itself but for what he can do with it. He does not keep it for fear of losing it. No, I spend it without thinking. It moves it intelligently, invests it, puts it to work to generate more money without need for your constant presence. If you continue to operate with the same mentality with which you grew up, you will get the same results you have always had. But if you start to see money from a new perspective, your financial reality, it will change in manner. It is not about working more hours or sacrificing your time to earn more money. Earning more money is about learning to generate income. Intelligent is about making money work for you instead of you working for money for security. Financial is not in whose desire but in how much can you keep and multiply, and the difference between those who reach abundance and those who stay in scarcity is in one thing: the mentality with which they see money. Now that you know you have two options, you can continue with the same forever. Now that you know you have two choices, you can continue with the same old waiting mentality, waiting for things to change alone, or you can begin to see money with new eyes, transforming your way of thinking and creating the life you really want. Money has never been the problem has been the form in which you have seen it, and now that you know you have the power to change it. Chapter 4. The invisible principles of wealth. Money throughout history has been seen as an enigma. To some it is an elusive force difficult to control, for others it seems to flow naturally, multiplying almost effortlessly. But the real difference is not in the amount of money that a person has at this time, but how to understand and apply certain principles that govern its flow. These principles are not taught in school, is not passed down from generation to generation in most families, are not found in conventional financial tips that promote them. Extreme savings or dependence on the salary are invisible rules that, when applied, transform the way money enter and remain in the life of. The first principle is that their wealth is a consequence, not an objective. Many people spend their lives chasing money, believing that yes, they will manage to accumulate enough, then they can feel secure and free, but paradoxically, those who look for it most out of desperation are the ones who find it least. They do not reach their wealth who chases it, and money does not achieve who chases it anxiously, but who creates the conditions for it to flow naturally. Think of a farmer who wants a bountiful harvest. If only focus on wishing, if it passes the days imagining the fruit in their hands, but never sowing or taking care of the earth, desire will be useless. Instead, who understands the process that the right seeds, watering the soil and protecting its cultivation, will eventually reap more than imagined. So, the second principle is that money follows. Many people want to be rich, but they don't know how much money they really have, nor what they are going to do once they have it. They have a vague desire, but without a clear direction. Who succeed in accumulating and holding wealth have a well-defined financial purpose. Define financial. Do not think in abstract terms as I want to be millionaire, but in specific goals and concrete strategies. A man in a coastal city dreamed of building a commercial empire. ABA tirelessly, but your business just grew. An old man watching him asked what his financial goal was. Exact man replied, I want to be rico. The old man smiled and asked him to out more specific. How much money you need to consider you rich? Man was silent. Not I had thought about it. For what you want that money? Another question left him unanswered. That money. Another question that left him unanswered. If today will give you a fortune, what would you do with it? After a long silence, The old man concluded that you cannot achieve what or you have even defined. Wealth follows clarity, not confusion. Since that day man changed your approach. Instead of working blindly, sat down to calculate with precision their financial goals, their investment and the necessary actions to achieve them with a clear vision. His business flourished in the following years. The third principle is that money grows where you feel welcome. Many people want more money, but at the same time they feel fear or rejection of him. Grew up hearing that money corrupts, that the rich are greedy, or that it is not good to talk about money. These subconscious beliefs act as an invisible brake on wealth, even when opportunities are for them. A man received an unexpected inheritance and instead of investing it wisely spent it all in a few months. A man received an unexpected inheritance and instead of investing it wisely spent it all in a few months. His subconscious mind urged him to get rid of the money because the deep did not feel comfortable with the wealth, had been educated to see money as something ephemeral, difficult to maintain, and his mind made him return to the state financial in which the scarcity. On the other hand, those who see money as a tool without burden, negative emotional, manage to maintain it and multiply it, do not fear losing it because they know that they can generate it again, feel guilty for having it because they understand that money simply amplifies what a person is already. The fourth principle is that money does not win. For centuries financial education has insisted that the only way to get money is to work hard, but if this were true, workers would be the richest in the world. The reality is that money flows to those who create value and solve problems, not simply to those who work more hours. A young salesman, he tried day and night to improve his income. He worked more hours than anyone in his team, but his commissions did not grow. Frustrated, he asked his mentor what the secret was to making more money. The mentor replied, sell and start solving problems. The young man did not understand the principle but soon realized that the customers were not buying because he insisted on selling, but because he offered real solutions to their needs. Instead of focusing on their commissions, he began to focus on how I could make his customers' lives easier. As a result of your financial success, this principle has been multiplied. Is key in any industry. The older millionaires of the world did not get their wealth because they worked harder than anyone else, but because they found ways to contribute a massive value to society. The fifth principle is that money follows. Many people want to gain more, but continue to work with the same financial information they learned in their childhood. Believe that saving is the key, when in reality without investment the money depreciates. Believe that a job stable is the best option, when in reality financial security is in the diversification of income. Investors, entrepreneurs and visionaries have no fear of spending on financial education, in learning new and surrounding themselves with people who drive them to grow. They understand that knowledge is not an expense, but an investment with the greatest possible return. A small merchant observed how other entrepreneurs from your town, they grew up fast. As he continued to stagnate, one day he decided to investigate what made them different. Discovered that each of them had something in common. They not only worked in their business, but they were constantly learning about investment, sales, business technology and strategies. Instead of staying in their area of comfort, they invested time and money in learning what they knew. In a few years, his business ceased to be a simple trade and became a business with real impact. The big difference between those who live up to date and those who build wealth is not in whose money they have in the beginning, but what they do with the information. That money is like a compass. Compass points to those who understand and know how to use it, does not discriminate, does not favor. It responds only to those who are willing to receive it and manage it with wisdom. In today's world, where opportunities are unlimited thanks to technology, education and globalization, the barriers to generating wealth have disappeared for those who are willing to learn and act. The sixth principle of wealth is that money expands in proportion to the control over it. No matter how much you win, if you don't know how to manage it, history is full of people who have made fortunes and lost them in an instant. History is full of people who have made fortunes and lost them in an instant because they understood the fundamental truth: money is a constant, and who does not manage with intelligence ends up being bragged by it. The rich are not made rich just because they win more, but because they have clear rules on how to use the money that comes into their hands. Every dollar they receive has a defined purpose. Do not spend without a plan. No, they invest without a strategy and do not save out of fear but for vision. There is an unwritten law that says if you don't control your money, the only way to build wealth is to take absolute control of your financial decisions. A person with a scarcity mentality spends first and saves what a person with a wealth mentality saves and invests first and spends what. The difference between the two mentalities is not the amount of money they have but the way they manage it. The seventh principle is that money flows to those who are willing to take responsibility. Most people want wealth without responsibility. Wealth without responsibility want to gain more but without making difficult decisions. They want to have financial success but without taking taking control of your life is that money does not follow those who wait, follow those who act. An entrepreneur once said, if not you can handle $, you will not be able to handle $1 million, and he was right. Is not money that changes people, is the amount of money that amplifies its form of action. If someone cannot manage the little that has, more money alone will aggravate their problems. Rich people do not fear the responsibility that comes with abundance. The 8th principle is that money responds to calculated risk. The difference between someone who remains in financial mediocrity and someone who advances toward wealth is that the second understands the importance of risk. The intelligent fear of risk keeps people trapped in the security of the known. They don't invest, they don't look for opportunities outside their comfort zone. Meanwhile, those who understand the money game know that every decision involves a degree of risk, but also an opportunity for growth. Entails a level of risk, but also a level of reward. Millionaires do not make decisions impulsively, but neither are they paralyzed by uncertainty. They study, they evaluate, and then act decisively. An experienced investor said, if you want to play all your life for sure, be prepared to receive the remains of those who dare to risk. The 9th principle is that money grows when shared strategically. It is a concept that many people misinterpret. Does not mean giving money without purpose or wasting it in meaningless causes. It is about understanding that intelligent generosity is one of the most effective ways to attract wealth. The richest people in the world understand the power of giving, not because they do superficial charity, but because they have discovered that when you add real value to the lives of others, the money returns multiplied. A successful businessman once said, if you want to win $1 million, help 1 million people. Wealth continues to impact, and the more you contribute, the more opportunities you have. The 10th principle is that money is a reflection of identity. A person who looks like someone worthy, someone capable of making good financial decisions, will bring opportunities that reinforce this image. On the other hand, someone who knows perceive as someone destined for scarcity, which is also said that it is not well with money, it will continue to find evidence that this belief is true. Financial identity build thoughts with habits and daily actions is not something that changes overnight, but can transform with practice. If you want to be someone who manages the intelligence, money begins with adopting the habits of people who have already achieved that stability. Financiera learn how they think, how to make decisions, and what principles follow in your daily life. Money does not have emotions, does not discriminate, does not have prejudices. Just follow the address you give. If you apply these principles, relationship with wealth will change forever. Now that you have seen the invisible principles that govern the money, the question is, what will you do with this information? Knowledge without action. Change is useless unless you decide to apply what you have. I've learned the rules of money have been the same since the beginning of time. The difference is in who decides to use them. Please have the opportunity to take control of your financial future decision. Future Decision is your Chapter 5, the system that follows the rich to generate money. In the previous chapter we explored the hidden principles of money, those invisible rules that govern the economy, personal, and that when they are understood and applied they transform the way in which we interact with wealth. Now is the time to deepen even more and discover the system that follows the rich to generate money. The money does not disappear, it simply changes hands. Wealth is not destroyed, only transfer of those who do not know how to handle it, who have learned to play the game. Financial, this game has rules, but most never learn them because education is the only way to learn them. This game has rules, but most never learn them because it educates us to be employees, not to be creators of wealth. The rich do not depend on a single income or luck, do not work more hours than others or necessarily. What is more intelligent than distinguishes is that they understand how generates, protects and multiplies the money. While most follow trapped in the work equation is the same to money, they have deciphered a system that allows them to create income without depending exclusively on your time. Imagine that you stop receiving your salary from one day to another. If you have only one source of income, your life enters into crisis of income, your whole life enters in crisis. But you have built a financial system that generates money from autonomous, where you can face any unforeseen without fear. That is the big difference. Is not just about how much you want, but how you generate your money and what you do with it. If you study someone who has accumulated wealth in a predictable way, you will not notice that a pattern. Always find the form of generate money, strategically multiply through investments, and they protect their wealth so that dilute over time. There is no room for the scarcity mentality or for the belief that everything is a matter of luck. That everything is a matter of luck. Wealth is the result of applying these keys with intelligence. Most people get trapped in the idea that the only way to earn money is to exchange time for a salary. This is the system that is taught from childhood, and that is why when someone loses its use all their life, those who have learned to generate wealth know that depend on a single source of income. It is one of the most dangerous decisions that can be taken in the world today. People do not need years to build wealth. The information is available to everyone, and those who know how to use it can create wealth. How to take advantage of it can create sources of income with an investment minimum. There are those who have built fortunes through digital businesses, investment in cryptocurrencies, generation of social network content, development of intellectual property, and electronic commerce without even being born in a rich family or have had flowing contacts. Money flows to those who contribute. This is a principle that has always existed, but today is more evident than ever. Those who find a way to solve problems, facilitate processes, or provide entertainment can generate wealth. No need for large investments. Initials for large investments. If you observe people with greater financial success, you will notice that they depend on linear income, is to say they do not earn money only when they work. Have learned to build systems where money continues to flow even when the money is not present. Does not follow the effort follows. The strategy is not to work more hours, but to learn to build income that does not depend only on the time you invest. They are why the difference between those who prosper and those who live in economic uncertainty is not in the amount of effort they make, but in the way they think about money. The real difference between the rich and the poor is what they do with money once they have it. Many people, when they begin to gain more, simply increase their spending, think that money is for spending and not to apply it, while both who have understood how wealth does not see money as an object to spend but as a seed that can grow exponentially if handled correctly. Those who have a mentality of scarcity believe that money is something fragile and difficult to obtain, fear losing it for what they save without investing, and avoid making financial decisions. They avoid making financial decisions they could generate. On the other hand, those who think like millionaires know that money that does not move loses value over time. Does not they keep money out of fear, they put it to work multiplied. The difference between those who build wealth and those who always they have economic problems is not in whose gain, but in what they do with what the poor gain. Things that lose value they generate intimate. Those who are trapped in scarcity spend all their money on appearances and momentary pleasures, while those who understand wealth they use it to generate more money in the future. The reason why the majority of people never manage to accumulate wealth is not because they don't earn enough, but because they never learn how to manage money correctly. Those who depend on a single source of income are in constant danger, while those who have diversified their sources of money can face any crisis without panicking. Money is not about how much you have at this moment, but how much you can hold and multiply over time. If you don't know how to manage it, it will grow in your hands and disappear like sand between your fingers. Knowledge is the most valuable asset a person can acquire, but is the least taught at school. They teach us to memorize dates, mathematical equations and grammatical rules, but we don't teach money to invest or generate passive income. As a result, most people grow up without knowing how it works. The economy is really just the cycle they have learned to follow: get a job, win a salary, pay accounts, and repeat until old age. Financial security is not in working more hours or receiving an increase, is to learn how it works money and use it in a way that intelligent rich people do not fear. They invest because they understand that wealth it is created when money is in motion. People who see money as something fragile will never achieve true abundance because they operate from scarcity, seeing money as something that can disappear at any time instead of seeing it as a tool. How well used can grow indefinitely. When you change your mentality, your reality begins to change. The way you talk about money changes, your way of making decisions changes, and as a result your financial situation changes. If you continue to see wealth as something distant or unattainable, you will continue to confirm that reality in your life. Money has never been the problem. The problem has always been the way you have seen it. Now that you know you have the power to change, money follows a pattern. Those who understand its rules attract it easily. Those who see it as a mystery live in a perpetual cycle of scarcity. The difference is not in the amount of effort but in the quality of the choices. Financial choices. Look at it. People who have built large fortunes have no fear of investing because they understand that wealth is created when money is put in motion. Those who operate from scarcity think that saving is the key but do not understand that money stagnant loses value over time. Inflation erodes opportunities. They pass and before they occur accounts are still in the same place. While others advance, a person with a mentality of wealth sees each ticket as a seed, can spend it on momentary pleasures or can sow it in an investment that will eventually give you fruit. Those who choose the first path end up trapped in the cycle of scarcity, trapped in the cycle of scarcity. They spend everything they earn, and when a crisis arrives, they depend completely on your job or external circumstances for survival. Money has never been looked up over any person who has achieved build wealth in a sustainable way, and it will say that his success was not due to a coup de grace but to the application of financial principles. Solid people with a mentality of abundance have a golden rule: they let fear control their financial decisions. Do not fear investing, do not fear learning, do not fear risk. Understand that wealth is not built, it is built not with cowardice, but with intelligence and self-control. With cowardice but with intelligence and long-term vision. Many wonder why despite their efforts they never achieve financial stability. The answer is simple: follow the same rules of those who live in scarcity. Believe that saving is enough, to work more hours is the solution, and earning more money will solve your problems, but do not learn to manage what they already have. Any increase in income will only lead to spending more. The world is full of stories of people who won millions and lost it in a short time. Business artists who they built fortunes and then watch them fade because they never learned the rules of money. Meanwhile, there are those who start with nothing and build wealth because they understood how to make money work. Money follows those who know how to manage it. Doesn't matter how much, whatever. What really determines your future financial is what you do with what you have. If you still believe that the solution to your financial problems is earn more money but you don't change your habits, you will always be in the same situation. Wealth is not about how much you want, but how much you can save and multiply. Rich people are not looking for income, they are looking for assets. They don't focus on accumulating money in a savings account, but to put it in motion to generate more money without relying exclusively on your time. Those who have understood how money works have discovered that there are 3 ways to generate wealth. First, through investment. Learning to invest means making money grow without the need to exchange time for it. Can be in real estate, in the stock market, in emerging companies, or even in assets. Second, digital. Through the creation of systems that generate passive income. Digital businesses, intellectual property monetization. Content and licenses are examples of how people can generate wealth. Content and licenses are examples of how people can make money even while sleeping. Third, financial knowledge. Education about money is more valuable than money itself because it allows you to make strategic decisions and avoid mistakes that can cost a fortune. The reason why the majority of people do not achieve wealth financial is not because they do not have opportunities, but because they have never learned to identify and take advantage of them. The problem is not the lack of money, it is the lack of vision. If you continue to operate with the same beliefs you grew up, you don't need more effort, you need more strategy. You don't need more money, you need better financial education. Now that you know these rules, you have 2 choices. You can keep doing the same thing and hope that things will change on their own, or you can take control of your financial future and use this knowledge to create a life of true freedom. Final chapter toward financial freedom. The previous pages have challenged your beliefs. Exposed the fallacies that block wealth, and revealed the strategies that separate those who fight for money from those who make money work for them. But now comes the really important part. It is not what you have read, but what you will do with it. There are 2 types of people: those who absorb knowledge without applying it, and those who take action, those who turn ideas into results. The difference between poverty and wealth is not in luck or education, but in the ability to act. On which side you will be. If anything has become clear on this journey, it is that money is only it is not about how much you earn, but how you think and what you do with it. Most people live trapped in an endless cycle of work. They win, spend and return to the beginning, leave there because they question the system in which they are. True financial freedom does not start when you have a lot of money, but when you learn to play the game of money with intelligence. You do not need millions in the bank to start living with abundance. You need clarity, strategy and action. When you make the decision to change your approach, everything changes. Not within 5 years, not when you have more experience, not when you have more money, not when you have more experience, not when you have more money, 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 not in 5 years, not when you have more experience, not when you find the perfect opportunity. Change today because everything you need is already in your hands: information, knowledge and the ability to make different decisions. We are going to break once and for all with the idea that money is hard to get or that it is reserved for a few. Money is an energy that flows to those who know how to use it, a result that is inevitable for those who follow certain principles. When you apply what you have learned, when you commit to mastering the game, wealth will no longer be a possibility and will become a natural consequence. A natural consequence in this final chapter, you will receive a clear map, no more theory, no more abstract concepts, only concrete steps that if you follow, your financial life will change to always. But before reaching this plan, there is something fundamental that you must understand. The greatest threat to your wealth is not the economy, the government, or your current situation, is your own mentality. There are invisible traps that keep most people in scarcity, subtle ideas, almost imperceptible habits that sabotage any attempt at prosperity. Most do not even realize that is there. And if you don't identify and eliminate them, any strategy you try to apply will be useless. Before we talk about the plan of action, we will unmask these traps and how to get out of them, because money is not difficult. The difficult is to unlearn what they have taught us about it. And once you do, everything, others will take care of the problem all by themselves. It is not the lack of opportunities, but the mental programming you have received about money since childhood. You have been taught that money is scarce, that it is difficult to get, to suffer to win it, or that only the privileged can accumulate it. If you grew up with these ideas, then without realizing it, you have boycotted your own wealth. The limiting beliefs are like invisible filters that distort your perception of reality. If you believe that money is dirty or that rich people are bad, you will never attract it into your life in a stable way. If you believe that you have to work tirelessly to earn it, you will never seek strategies that make it grow without your constant effort. And if you believe that abundance is a matter of luck, you will never take control of your financial destination. The first step to transforming your economy is to change the way you see money. The same people who say that money is not important spend most of their lives working to get it. There is no more absurd contradiction than that if money was not important, anyone would need to pay for your home, your food, your health, or your dreams. Accepting that money is crucial to your freedom is an essential step. It is not a matter of greed, it is a matter of autonomy. Now that we have made it clear that money is not bad and that your lack of it is the product of a wrong mindset, it is time to change the way you think about money. The first trap is the fear of risk. The majority of people prefer the security of a fixed salary to the uncertainty of undertaking or investing, but what does not come is that security is an illusion. A job can disappear in any time, while knowledge and financial skills give you the power to generate income without depending on anyone. The second trap is the victim mentality. Many people blame the government, their country, or their education for their lack of money, but while looking guilty, they waste the time they could be learning new skills. The third trap is the impulse to spend more than you want. Is the perfect formula for financial slavery. It doesn't matter how much money comes into your account. If you don't know how to manage it, you will always be in ruin. True wealth is not measured by how much you want, but by how much you preserve and multiply. The fourth trap is the fault of financial education. If you don't know how money works, you will always be your slave. The system is designed to keep you in debt, consumption, and dependency. The fifth trap is the fault of financial education. If you don't know how money works, you will always be your slave. The only way to free yourself is to learn how to make money work for you instead of working for money all your life. Once you understand these traps and you eliminate them from your life, you will be ready to apply the action plan that will really take you to financial freedom, because wealth does not build with wishes or luck but with knowledge applied. Money remains clear. If you are not sure how much you want to win, how are you going to generate it, and what are you going to do with that money? Then you will never have it in the amount you want. Rich people don't just dream of abundance, they create a specific plan to achieve it, and that's what we're going to do now. The first thing you should do is define a clear number. It's not enough to say I want to be rich or I want to win more money. You need to set a goal concretely. How much do you want to win per month? How much do you need to feel financially free? Write it. Without a specific number, your mind won't know what to look for or how to get there. Now ask yourself how you can generate that amount without depending solely on your time and effort. If you're still tied to a model where you only exchange hours for money, you will always be limited. Key is to build sources of income that will grow without your presence constant. This is where the concept of leverage. The leverage means using external resources for multiplying your money. There are many ways to do. One of them is the leverage of money, is to say invest in assets that generate passive income. If the money you earn only for paying accounts and expenses will never leave the cycle of scarcity, but a part of your income is directed to investment strategic, over time money will start working for you. Another way leverage is the awareness. The more you know about business, investments, and income generation, more opportunities will have. The difference between a rich person and a poor person is not luck, is information handled by a person. Poor does not know where or how to invest, but a rich person has education necessary to do so with confidence. Then is the leverage. This is where the scalable businesses, automation, and the systems that generate income. Without that, You are present. The big difference between the rich and those who live trapped at work is that the first design models in which they must always be active to trigger money to start identifying what skills or knowledge you can monetize. Identify what skills or knowledge you can monetize. What you know how to do. Market value can be something as simple as writing, editing videos, selling products, investing in root goods, developing an online business, or creating value content. The important thing is to identify something you can stand out from and be sought after. The next step is to learn to multiply your income. Is where many fail because they think that earning more money will automatically make them rich. But you keep spending everything that ever comes and you will build true wealth. The gold rule is simple. A portion of what you earn should be reinvested in assets that will generate you more money in the future. Money in the future. This can include investing in real estate that generate income, to participate in businesses that climb without depending on your time, to create digital content that can be sold again and again effortlessly, in addition to investing in the financial market with safe strategies and long-term build systems. Passive income that works for you while you sleep. You don't need large sums to start. The important thing is the mentality with which you do it. If you set aside an amount each month, even for growing your money over time, you will see surprising results. Another key principle is the control of expenses. Is not about another principle is not to live with a scarcity mentality, but to prioritize money on things that really add value to your life. Rich people do not waste money on things that only make them look rich. They invest in assets that make them more rich. At this point you already have a clear vision of how to change your relationship with money. Now we're going to structure a practical plan to start applying it today. The first step is to change your consumer mentality to create a. Most people are trapped in the cycle of spending what they earn buying things they don't need to impress people who don't even care, but those who really do. They build wealth. They understand that money is not about spending it but multiplying it. Begins with a plan. Clear and simple action. Divide your income into 3 main areas: survival, investment, and survival growth. Here goes what: basic, rental, food, services. But keep in mind that the less you need to live, the faster you can get out of the cycle of dependency. Financial investment. Before spending on luxuries or entertainment, you must make sure that a portion of your income is dedicated to assets that work for you. This includes investments in real estate, digital business, stock, or any other source of income. Growth, liabilities. This is where education comes in, networking and expanding your skills. The rich are always learning. They are learning because they know that knowledge is the greatest asset that you can have. Now on execution. If you want to achieve financial independence, you need to apply the scalability principle. You can't just depend on your time because this is limited. You need to find ways to generate income without your presence is necessary. One option is to create products, digital courses, membership, books, software, anything that can be sold over and over again without requiring your time after having created it. Another option is to invest in automated businesses. To invest in automated businesses today with technology is possible. To have online stores that sell products without having to manage them. You can use the dropshipping, affiliation, or even sell services through automated systems. If you do not want to undertake, you can also invest in companies that they are already working to buy shares. Participate in projects with potential or finance profitable businesses allows you to generate income without having to build something from scratch. Important is to diversify. Do not put all your money in a single basket. The truly rich, they have multiple sources of income because they know that the economy is always changing and do not want to depend on a single flow of money. Here enters the concept of snowball effect. You do not need to get rich. You just need to start overnight with something small and do it grow. A business that generates little at the beginning but expand with consistency can become a source of income incredible in a few years. To accelerate this process, use the power of automated systems. Everything you can delegate, tasks that you do not have to do yourself, and focus on what really generates results. The key is to act. Is not enough with read or learn. You have to run. Start with something small today. Open an investment account, create a product, digital searches for business opportunities, sell something, but don't wait for the moment perfect money flows to whomever. Inaction is the biggest obstacle to wealth. It is not enough to accumulate knowledge money when there is no action. Many people get trapped in the learning cycle without execution, consuming books and seminars without putting anything into practice. The key to building wealth is not just knowing, but doing. Every day you spend without making an intelligent financial decision is a day you are still in the same place. The first step to building your empire is to take action. The first step to build your empire financial is to identify in what you are good and how you can generate value with this is a direct consequence of the value you contribute to the world. Those who understand this do not work alone for money, but create solutions products and services that solve real problems. If you are not yet clear how to generate value, begins by observing what skills you can be profitable. You are good at communicating, you can sell advice or online courses, you have knowledge about a specific topic, can write a book, open a channel in social networks, or develop a payment community. The key is to understand that money flows where there is to understand that money flows to where there is utility. Wealth is also in your ability to manage risks. Many are they paralyze the fear of losing money, but the true investors and entrepreneurs understand that all then implies taking calculated risks. Try to bet on a movement, but make decisions based on solid strategic information. When you start, the best form to invest without fear is to diversify and use the controlled risk strategy. Do not put all your money in one place, but in different assets that a growth potential. A percentage can go to investments safe as real estate, to high performance opportunities such as startups or cryptocurrencies. Performance opportunities such as startups or cryptocurrencies, and at part fast liquidity investments such as digital businesses or markets. Financial time is a key factor in building wealth. Try not only how much money you earn, but how long it takes you to generate it. If every dollar that comes in depends on your time, you will always be limited. You must build sources of income that work for you even when you sleep. Intelligent money is that which moves by itself. Investing in assets that generate passive income is the way the truly rich multiply their fortunes. For this, investing in real estate, dividends of automated business actions, or intellectual property. So this is where you must make the key question: how can I make my money work for me? When you work today, your income will continue to come. When the answer is no, then you need to change your financial approach to. You do not need large amounts of money to start. Many you think that to invest they are required thousands of dollars, but the reality is that today you can start with amounts minimum of stock market investments, small contributions to business, digital with almost zero investment. Initial opportunities are in all parts. The excuse of "I don't have money to invest" is just a myth. What you need is financial discipline. If you eliminate unnecessary expenses and focus your resources in assets that produce more money in a short time, you will see results surprising. The difference between those who achieve financial freedom and those who do not, as they use their money. This is the time to wait for the perfect opportunity, because it does not exist. With what you have and where are you, and make your money work for you from today. The biggest mistake them commit most people when this is money is postponing that there will be a better time than when you have more income, can start saving, investing, or building assets. But the truth is that the moment perfect never comes. Wealth is not a matter of how much you earn, but of how you manage what you have. Every ticket that passes through your hands is a tool that can be used to generate more money or for disappearing in expenses that do not contribute anything to your future. The difference between someone who becomes financially free and someone who always lives to the limit is not in the amount of income, but in the way you use money. The first change you owe to do is to see money as a worker. When you spend it on things that they only meet momentary needs, you lose opportunities. When you put it to work in investing in training or systems that generate more income, every dollar than you have becomes a seed of abundance. If there is a rule that all millionaires understand, this: money loves the more quickly you make strategic decisions and you start actions to multiply, it grows faster. Financial opportunities do not wait for those who doubt. You do not need large sums to start to invest. In the digital world, there are platforms that allow you to start with minimum amounts. You can buy actions of stocks, participate in indexed funds, or invest in goods routes with little money through crowdfunding. The key is in the start. One of the secrets of the rich is that they never depend on a single source of income. Traditional employment can be the base but should not be the only road. Building multiple sources of income is the only way to ensure long-term financial stability. Deadline: if you depend only on one salary, you are outside a decision to lose all your livelihood, but you have different money flows such as business investments, digital income, or real estate. No economic blow it can destroy you. This leads us to an essential concept: passive income. The more income you can generate without exchanging your time directly for money, the closer you will be to financial freedom. A book that sells every day, an automated business, or an investment in dividends are examples of money that can be kept effortlessly constant. To achieve this is fundamental. Develop skills that build digital or physical assets. Learn about investments, business and strategies. Automation of scalability will give you advantage in a world where most people you just know how to work for money. Try to work harder but work smarter. Those who have built wealth have done so optimizing your time and money while others spend it empty. Those who have built wealth have done so by optimizing their time and money while others spend empty. They invest in knowledge and opportunities that multiply their capital. If you want to change your financial future, You must take responsibility for every economic decision you make. No one else will do it for you. If you keep waiting for external circumstances to change, you will always be at the same place. The control of your money is the control of your destiny. The most important thing is to start today. You do not need to be an expert or have great resources. You just need to take action and stop procrastinating. At the time you decide to do something with your money, in place of just spending it, you have already given the most. Spend it. You have already taken the most important step towards financial freedom. If there is something that distinguishes financially successful people, they do not see money as an end in itself, same but as a tool to expand their influence and freedom. While most people, they work for money, they make the money work for them, and this is not a word game but a strategy of life. The true power of money, it lies in its ability to multiply. If there is an abysmal difference between someone who view money as something that must be spent in immediate pleasures and someone who used to build sustainable wealth. Wealth is not a matter of luck, but of strategy, structure and action. In order to close this chapter with the greatest possible contribution, we will focus on specific strategies that you can implement immediately to accelerate your path to freedom. Financial first. The concept of accelerated capitalization. Most people only save what is free after. This is the biggest financial mistake. You must invest first and spend later. Instead of keeping what remains, decide how much you are going to invest each month and adjust your life around this decision. This is how they are created. Second, fortunes. The principle of money. Liquid opportunities. Fortune is the principle of money. Liquid opportunities appear without warning, and only those who have money at their disposal can take advantage of them. The rich do not let all their money be immobilized in material goods. They always have liquidity to move quickly when investments arise. It's profitable. If all your money is trapped in assets that do not generate cash flow, you can't play in the league of investors. Smart. Third, a mentality of partner instead of employee. People average looking for jobs. The rich are looking for opportunities to associate. No matter what sector, you always ask yourself, how can I become a partner instead of receiving a salary? Partner instead of receiving a salary. You can negotiate actions in a company, invest in an entrepreneurship, or create a business model where you are the owner instead of selling your forth. The leverage of time and the most valuable knowledge you have, it is not money, but your ability to learn and connect with people adequately. Surround yourself with mentors. Learn constantly and leverage the knowledge of others. The person who knows more wins more. And in the digital world, where information is accessible, there is no excuse not to master the rules of fifth money. The generation principle of value. If you want to make more money, stop thinking about if you want to earn more money. Stop thinking about how much you need and start thinking about how much value you can generate. Money always follows value. If your product or service work transforms lives and many people, wealth will be a consequence. Finally, inevitable. The concept of build an income machine. Rich do not seek to make a big hit and retire. They build systems that generate money constantly with or without your presence. Automated, intelligent investments, scalable strategies. You should think big and design a system that works. This book ends here, but start your financial transformation now. You have knowledge, but what matters is what you do with it. When you apply even a fraction of what you have learned here, your relationship with money will change. The decision is forever in your hands. Stay with us here on your channel, where we will continue to share teachings, expand consciousness and open spaces for us to continue to grow together. Transformation is a continuous process, and we want to continue to walk by your side in each book that helps you have a new vision of life. We see you in the next audiobook. Until then, keep shining, keep exploring and keep awakening. Foreign applause.